if you're fighting and if you're active, you're gonna lose. It's MMA. It's hard. Everybody's fucking good. So many different ways to lose.
So much to cover. Not enough time to cover it.
Mm-hmm.
UFC 282, a card that almost could have gone sideways with the main event, having to be replaced. Yuri was unable to fight, vacated the belt, so they kind of scrapped together the card. Show goes on as always. What were your initial thoughts hearing that Yuri wasn't going to make it and that the replacement fight was Jan Blachowicz versus Ankalaev?
So my initial thought was, damn, they took Glover out of the title fight picture. Which to me it made sense because they already had the basically the number one contender fight was going to be their co-main event. So I mean, they already had those two guys lined up to fight anyway on that card. So I mean, I guess it made sense whenever it was announced that those two would be fighting for the title. And then it made even more sense when I found out that the UFC actually offered Glover Ankalaev. So he wouldn't have been left out if he would have accepted the fight with Ankalaev. He turned it down. So then we get Jan Ankalaev. Basically, that also told me that the UFC thinks that no one wants to see Jan versus Glover again. So that was pretty telling. But the show must go on, you know, as they say in show business.
It's funny how things work because and then the initial thought was that it should be Glover and fighting for the title, and somehow he's going to be fighting for the title. The still vacant title, but we'll get to that in a second.
We'll get to
boy, oh man, you already know how I feel about that. We gonna get into that. But before we get into the main card, I want to shout out the young boy. What's his name? Rosas?
Yes. Raul Rosas Jr. Man.
Now, where they put him on the prelims was perfect because he is somebody that needs to be on the main card, and that was kind of like a main card preview right there. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That boy got something to him.
Yeah. He definitely, well, first of all, he is so young. I don't think like it gets stated, but I don't think it can be stated enough how young he is, bro. Like, you talk about slow playing a guy. We could slow play this guy freaking 5 years and he still would be the youngest champion if he got the belt. Like, it's crazy. And it's really like amazing because he's just talented enough already. He has a framework. They say he started as a striker and started working on his grappling. Now he's looking like a very good grappler as far as MMA goes. So it's amazing. It's amazing. So he's got a lot of time to like develop. There's literally no rush. There's no reason to do anything irrational. I think I heard John Anik say the 35th best ranked fighter in his division is still really good. And that division is deep, first of all. So that being said, I think there's literally no rush with this guy. You can take your time. He can do whatever he wants.
He's a bantamweight, right? So he'd be in Aljamain Sterling, Sean O'Malley, the Pewter Yan. He'd be in that weight class.
Absolutely.
Oh man,
bro.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot. Cheeto Vera, Corey Sandhagen, Song Yadong. Like, the list keeps going, bro. It keeps going.
Yeah, he seems to be made of the right stuff. He got the right mentality. So it's interesting because the UFC being a business and wanting to promote the fighters, especially the ones that draw a lot of interest to the sport and are the ones that can become superstars. It's interesting to see, because you mentioned slow playing him. How much are they going to slow play him, / how much can they slow play him due to what his performance is in the octagon? Youngest UFC fighter to win in the history of the UFC. And if his skills really are what they appear to be, how long is it going to be before he starts getting matched up with these names and starts getting fast-tracked, due to being a good fighter and due to being good for business? So that's what's interesting to see next. And it looks like he does have a ground game, which, as the division currently stands, is something you need, or appears to be, in order to get to the top. Of course, we have Aljamain Sterling and Henry Cejudo fighting. So
Exactly.
if that doesn't tell you need a ground game, I don't know what does. But, we'll see what happens when Sean O'Malley fights for the belt. But and I want to get a man all his flowers. His name is Raul Rosas Jr. That's what we're speaking about. And that man, hey, that was a great transition to the main card. An excellent transition to the main card. So the first fight, we had Bryce Mitchell versus the Spanish dude. What is his name?
Ilia Topuria.
Hey.
Ilia Topuria.
We didn't get to do the preview and the predictions. So what were your thoughts going into the fight? And then what did you leave the fight thinking?
First of all, going into the fight, if you've watched Ilia Topuria's last fight with Jai Herbert, you'd realize that, first of all, he went up in weight in that fight. He went up weight in that fight, and he scrapped. He fought. He clawed. He's kind of like, he's light. He's kind of light. One of those, if he goes up, he'll be a little bit too light. He doesn't look big for his division by any means anyway, in the featherweight, but going into that fight, I thought Mitchell has a ground game, and I've seen Ilia brawl on the feet and scramble on the ground. So I'm like, I wonder how this is going to play out. When this fight started, I was thinking, there's just no way. There's a couple moments in the fight where I was actually shocked at the strength that Ilia displayed. There was a scramble that they had where Ilia has either a body lock or maybe some type of headlock, and he literally just flips Bryce Mitchell over. I don't like, when that happened, I'm watching that like, I don't think people are looking at how much strength this takes, bro. It's not on the feet. It's not a slam, bro. He really just flipped his ass like crazy. And throughout that fight, he really showed, like, he really ragdolled him. It was a good fight, but it was more of like he stepped up in an area where Mitchell was supposed to excel in. And that is a problem. That is a problem, because on the feet, it's Ilia. Oh man, the way he be throwing, he might have that little bit of, he might be drinking that same water that Poirier be drinking. That's all I'm gonna say. He might be, okay. He be throwing them things for real. So I thought it was gonna be a good fight. Mitchell was undefeated going into this, great ground game, and he was a tenacious fighter, always coming forward, always attacking. And Topuria is like that as well with his hands, a little bit more talented with his hands. But I thought that this was going to be a great fight, especially for that. I wanted to see, where it would go. Would Topuria knock him out? Because I know he has that knockout power. And we see how it played out, bro. Great fight. Literally great fight.
Yeah, that fight was tremendous. And I think it's interesting on the aftermath of the fight, because it's already been or I guess the aftermath of the card, because it's already been kind of brewing a little bit already. The call outs have already been happening.
Oh,
so not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but what do you see next? Do you see eventually a path where him and Mr. Paddy the Batty collide, or what's next for him? Because he is undefeated too, so he technically should be on that fast track.
Yeah, no. This is a scenario where one guy is literally, first of all, they're in two different divisions first. Now,
Mm.
Topuria has stepped up to go into the lightweight division. However, as a featherweight, he's already a contender. He's a borderline, like, he'd probably be, he's probably top six in that division. He's probably top six in that division. So it doesn't make sense for him to fight somebody like Paddy. I don't even know if, no, I do know. Paddy is not ranked, and nor should he be. So
he's going to be. He's
yeah,
going to be probably after this fight.
I don't think so. I don't think so, because once he gets ranked, it's going to be pretty hard to slow play him. So it's just not. It's not going to happen.
I think you said slow play because you're a very polite individual. I think what you meant is protect him.
That too, because
that's what you mean.
I mean, there's only one person in the top 15 where I'm like, this is going to be this could be a good fight, and that's Tony Ferguson, and it's because he's old. So and then you run the risk of Tony. Now, Tony's a little old, so maybe you don't run the risk, but yeah, I'm not even going to finish that. I don't think Tony's getting him out of there either. Like, it's that fight wouldn't even be appealing. So yeah, no, they're gonna have to keep Paddy out the top 15. But as far like back to your question, what's next for Topuria? Top 8 matchup, top 6 matchup. Actually, if it was me, I'm putting him in there against Korean Zombie, and we're just gonna see what happens. It goes against Korean Zombie. He might be the only featherweight that doesn't have a fight book, that's not injured, or that's not like too high up. I think he's number 6. So maybe him against Korean Zombie. He has a good showing against him, and then boom, you're right there. One more fight and then a title. So yeah, I think something like that would be good. Because I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I understand the hype. It just doesn't make sense for him to fight Paddy, because he's literally borderline contender, and Paddy has a little bit more work to do to be a borderline top 15 guy. It just don't make sense.
Korean Zombie's number 6. So,
I think Topuria will be around 8 or 9.
Okay. From what I've seen out of Korean Zombie, I mean, and what I've seen out of Topuria, granted, Korean Zombie has been fighting them guys, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But like, I don't know. I'm interested to see where Topuria goes with this, because he seemed to be a pretty clean fighter, pretty polished, high energy guy. And having someone from a completely different market, I think he's one of the only Spanish fighters in the UFC. That's amazingly dope. Spain is one of them countries that, you know, we like our Spanish people. So
yeah.
So I think that would be dope to open up a new market, have a successful fighter there.
Side note, he is Spanish, and I believe Georgian. I believe he's Georgian as well. They have another Georgian up there, and that fight would be a good fight. That would be Ilia versus Giga Chikadze. Now that would be a banger. I think that would be a great fight, actually. But that's a little higher up. And like I said, I feel like he might just crack the top 10. So I would go with somebody like Korean Zombie. But you saying he's Spanish, I believe he's either one of the things that he represents is Georgia. So with that being said, it'll be interesting to, let the Georgians go at it.
Not opposed. Yeah. And Georgia's one of them places that is also close to Russia. So, it appears that these places that are right there on Russia kind of got that, you know what I mean? Some of them fighters got them things on them. So what I'm interested to know, since Bryce Mitchell was having such success early on in his career, what's next for him?
I don't think this is a negative for Bryce Mitchell. Like, he was climbing, and then you just run into a guy that's better than you on that day. You need to polish up some more things. Like, you need to get out of the way of those strikes. You need to not get bombed on like that. Like, you have to shore up your wrestling and your jiu-jitsu. Like, Bryce Mitchell was in the top 10. He might fall out of the top 10, but he'll be back. He has a good ground game, and he's a young, undefeated fighter. He's got time. He's got time. It's not a big deal. I mean, no one's gonna remain undefeated forever, for one, but also if you're fighting and if you're active, you're gonna lose. It's MMA. It's hard. Everybody's fucking good. So many different ways to lose. Yeah, it's just gonna happen. So it's not that big of a deal. Maybe down the line we see this fight again. So
I wouldn't mind that, especially if he polished up his skills and I guess found a better path to victory against Topuria. But it's looking like Topuria is on his way. So just have to see how that pans out. But thanks for watching Certified Jesters. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this.
And don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss a post.